Tonight, our guest speaker is Daisy Gutierrez. She will share information about college applications and personal insight questions.
Good evening, everyone. Again, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Daisy Gutierrez, and I'm a school counselor at Bolsa Grande High School. And today, our topic is the personal insight questions, also known as the PIQs for the UC system. What we'll be discussing today is about the UC Comprehensive Review. We'll also take a look at the values list. We'll discuss the 8 PIQs, including a couple of samples, case studies, and the additional comments section and some final tips. And of course, at the very end, questions. The chat box will be disabled until the last 15 minutes of the presentation. So at that time, we'll open up the chat box for you to ask any questions. So please save them until the end of the presentation. Thank you. So here we have the part 1. 1 through 8, it's a UC Comprehensive Review. There's 14 factors, which are academic and non-academic. So here they are more in detail, but I always like to look at it at a more simple way for the students and for their families to better understand. So here again is the UC Comprehensive Review, the 14 factors. The column here is academic. So they always looked at your GPA, the test scores, performance, the number of courses available at your high school. And so an update on test scores, as you know, for the class of 2021, our current seniors, and also for our class of 2022, our current juniors, it's a test optional. So what does that mean, test optional? That means that freshman applicants are not required to submit their SATs or ACT test scores. But if students do choose to submit their scores on their application, they will, the UC system will, they will consider your scores. Also, but the scores may be used for scholarships, course placement after you enroll. So either way, whether you've taken your SATs or not, you can still go ahead and submit them for consideration. For other things too, like scholarships and of course, placement. So academic opportunities is pretty much, it is what most, did you make the most of those opportunities available to you? So for example, not all high schools or school district will offer the same number of AP classes. So really, they can't really penalize you for your high school only offering, let's just say 5 AP classes, while another student at another high school offers more than 20 advanced placement courses. So that's what it is, what they mean by academic opportunities. As you can see for the number 12 factor, which is the participation in educational programs, that would be like the program that we have here at the Garden Grove Unified School District, which is AVID. Number 13, this would be more of a, first generation students to attend college. Maybe, you had to work during high school, or you come from a low income family. So all that has to do with a lot of things, not just the PIQs. They take a look in consideration all these other 14 factors. So now let's examine your own life. So, so pretty much what are the personal insight questions? So these questions are about getting to know you better. So the UC system, they want to know your life experience, your interests, your ambitions, and inspirations. So think of it as your interview with the admissions office. So it's important that you're open, be reflective, and find your individual voice and express it. Now, this is only part of their consideration when they're making their admission decision, but it does, help provide a context for the rest of your application. Next, we have the values exercise. So I really like to do this with my students. We usually, in their classes, we like to, we put these up and we always ask them to pick their top 5 values. And so then once they pick their 5, then they narrow it down to 3. And the last step is to narrow it down to 1. So, you can use this to refer back when you're writing your prompts. And this would highlight your values in some way. And it also use this to give an example that you've gained while you were engaged in these activities. For example, I have one here, common and uncommon. So everyone writes about maybe a sport. Perhaps you play basketball. Well, the topic for you would be playing basketball, and your theme would be teamwork. Now, when you start your prompt, usually everyone starts saying, it's a common language everyone uses, it's basketball changed my life. Okay, so it's kind of common. You don't want to have a common prompt like writing like this, so we always have to go more in depth. So another one that we recommend is, let's talk about bowling. So the theme for that would be leadership, and then you have to find some way to connect it to a career, like your career path, such as math. So it goes something like this. When a bowler bowls with the hook ball, they're taking advantage of friction. A hook ball is when the ball goes about 2/3 of the way down the lane before curving into the pins. As you can see, this is a huge difference compared to the other sample about basketball. See how they gave us a little bit more detail, they're a little bit more specific, and yet they were able to connect it to math, which I'm assuming that would be their career, their major. So right here, you can kind of see the difference between what they want to see and what they don't. So what looks strong? So really the UC's admissions office, officers are looking to get to know you again a little bit more. You should talk about your leadership, dedication, initiative, and responsibility. Okay. So initiative, tell us if you maybe were a funder of, you created a club at your school, or maybe you started a community movement. So these can either be on campus or off campus. For instance, I know I had a student, he was in our ELD program, started as a freshman at our school. He is now going to be graduating this year, and he was the founder of our new club at our campus, which is our ELD tutoring club. So for him, this would be a good topic to kind of write about how he started this, what was the need. And so this is what schools want to see, And let's see, responsibility, tell us more. Maybe you are working part-time, or perhaps you're a caretaker, you're helping, your parents with babysitting. So tell us a little bit more. Dedication. So aside from years of involvement, make sure that you want to include and tell us, the activities that you were involved, not just the hours that you spend, but tell us what you learned. What did you gain from this? Okay. The basics. Okay, so the PIQs, there's 8 questions, and you have to respond to 4 out of the 8. Okay, so out of 4 of the 8, there is a limit, a max of 350 words. And so usually students can respond to these prompts anywhere between 250 and 350 words. And so again, all these prompts are given equal consideration, which means that you are free to select any prompt. There is no advantage or disadvantage to choosing a certain question over others. You just have to make sure that you select questions that are most relevant to you and that best reflects your individual experience. So just keep in mind that the PIQs, it's a selection purpose, and it's all depending on the campus. So the UCs, they do not interview students or anything like that. So the PIQs are a perfect way for you as a student to share your story, your experience, your challenges, your achievements. So again, this is a great opportunity for you to maximize your voice. Okay, what makes you? So the focus should always be on you. And remember to always use I, me, and my statements. Okay, always bring it back to you. Focus on you. Okay. Again, continuing on the basics. So remember, I know the PIQs, everyone thinks about them as essays. You always hear everyone referring them to essays and essays. But again, remember, they're not essays. They're questions. So students, again, call them essays, but you shouldn't think of them as essays. They're questions. So admission officers want to be able to get some clarity. They want a better understanding or perspective on the choices that you as a student made in your 4 years of high school, either academic or personal. Context. What was available to you at your high school? And then depth. So details, more details. You know, we want to know more details. So if you start saying, you know, I applied to this summer internship at the hospital, and I was one out of the 20 selected. Okay, well, tell us more. How many students did apply? Like, were there over 80 applications or 800? So be specific, because that really changes the context, okay? And as a student, only you know the details, but us as a reader, whoever's reading your PIQs, we don't know anything. So, and then we can't assume or look anything up. We can't go on Google and start searching, okay, well, what program is this? Let me look it up. We can't. They just can't look anything up. So again, the reader cannot assume anything. So the more detail you include, better. Okay. Okay, moving on. So the basics. You know, always, again, like I've been repeating, I'll probably say it again and over, but always focus on you. So each campus will receive the same copy of your responses, so don't be campus specific, okay? And the best is always be honest. Okay, try to avoid. So what, you know, these are some tips that I like to give to the students. What do we need to avoid on the PIQs? You need to avoid acronyms, okay? Again, the admissions officers, they cannot look anything up, so make sure you spell it out, okay? Because acronyms, one of the popular ones is MESA, but you know, MESA can stand for a lot of things, okay? So when you're including that on your PIQs, spell it out. So MESA stands for Math, Engineering, Science, Achievement. So make sure you spell it all out. Same thing with Future Teachers of America. Some they'll just put FTA, or maybe even not National Honor Society, NHS. I mean, I know these are common and you think everyone might know, but not everything, not everyone knows all these acronyms. So like, again, to be safe, just spell it out, okay? Quotations, dialogues, you know, don't use quotes. They really don't like that. Don't use any fancy writing. So no storytelling, you know, but it's very important that you keep it very professional. No slang, no abbreviations, no jokes, nothing. Any inappropriate humor, it's not good. So it's not helpful. And so again, just keep it detailed, but don't use any any words or anything that you typically don't use. Okay. Again, don't ask questions, you know, just tell us what you mean. Once you start the writing process, keep in mind, again, always tie it back to yourself. Use the I in my statements. Again, it's not an essay, so it's not going to be graded, but also try to look for your grammar. Get to the point. That's very important. They always say get to the point. Again, no storytelling. So, you know, expand on a topic by using specific concrete examples to support the points that you want to make. You know, talk about yourself so that they get to know your personality, your talents, your accomplishments, and how you're going to be successful at a UC campus. Your answer should also reflect your own ideas and be written by you. So it's good always to get some feedback. So it's okay to ask your friends, your teachers, to kind of go, you know, just read over your prompts, but and then, you know, it's okay for them to offer their suggestions and, you know, make revisions. That's always good. I know a lot of you, you know, you kind of do this as an assignment in your English class. It's good to get, you know, feedback, but again, you always have to remember that all this has to be, you know, written by you, your own ideas. So I know you guys are probably all want to know what these prompts are. Again, there's 8, and here on the screen, I have the first 4. The first one is about leadership. So on leadership, they ask you to describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, help resolve disputes, or contribute to a good efforts over time. The second one is about creativity. So on this one, they ask you to express yourself in many ways, maybe problem solving. So describe how you expressed your creative side. So tell us more. The third one is about a talent. So what would you say is your greatest talent or skill, and how have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? Now, the fourth prompt is about an educational opportunity. So how have you taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier that you have faced? So these are the first 4. And the last 4 is about a challenge. So the next one, the 5th one, is they want you to describe a challenge that you have faced and the steps that you have taken to overcome this challenge. And how has this challenge affected your academic achievement? The 6th one is about an academics. So think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you have furthered this interest inside or outside of the classroom. The 7th one is about community service. So what have you done to make your school or community a better place? And our very last prompt for the PIQs is talks about you. So what stands out? So beyond what you have already shared in your application, they want to know, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for the mission to the UCs? Okay. So we're going to take a look a little bit more in depth about the PIQs. First one, again, is leadership. So for leadership, I think first you always want to ask yourself and define the word leader. You know, think of 3 words that describe what a leader is, and then just kind of talk about it and tell us, is there a time in your life when you displayed any of these traits? Again, leadership can come any form of a mentor, a tutor, family responsibilities, or perhaps taking the lead on an event or a project. Okay. And how has your experience changed your perspective on leading others? You know, did you resolve an important issue at your school, at your community? So tell us more about this leadership if this is something you want to write about. Okay, and then next I have a video from UC Berkeley where the UC Berkeley admissions staff members share a little bit more of insight on how students can demonstrate leadership on your UC app. So let me play this video for you.
Each student brings something to Berkeley, and one of the most important things they can bring is their leadership.
Leadership's important to the Berkeley culture as a whole because it's one of the elements that we think help students succeed here on our campus. Leadership, initiative, persistence, tenacity, all of those add up to a student who will do well here on campus and then take those skills out into the world when they graduate.
Leadership is an important skill for a Berkeley applicant to have because it really sets you apart from all other applicants. Leadership is a tangible quality that we can pick up on from the information that you present on your application for admission.
There are different forms of leadership that we look at in the application process. Some of those more traditional forms of leadership can include being the treasurer of a club or student organization, being the president of the student body or student government, being the captain of a sports team. But there are also non-traditional forms of leadership that don't necessarily come with titles. Those personal circumstances, such as being charged with picking up your younger siblings from school because you live in a single parent household, working in a low income household, taking care of a sick parent or grandparent is also a form of leadership.
We value that here at Berkeley in our application process, and we want you all to know that we look at that type of leadership in a similar light as if you were the class president.
So leadership can come through on the application through the appropriate sections such as extracurricular activities, community service, to students responding to the personal insight questions, particularly leadership, and implementing and showing us exactly how students are leaders in their community.
And there's so many opportunities to talk about your experiences. So there is an additional comment section. There are 2 of them where students can go into more detail with how they may have been a leader in the classroom and how any other situations they might have faced that they couldn't share otherwise in the application.
Students can express leadership through their extracurricular activities, in communities, through their volunteer work, in internships. So really everywhere in the application, the students are able to show that leadership, that initiative that we look for.
What we want is for the student to really advocate for themselves and talk about what types of leadership they have. It is up to the student to explain that to us, but we see leadership in multiple aspects.
And we are looking for leaders both inside and outside of the classroom. We are looking for students who will aid in our vitality as a campus, who will bring their potential to us, which comes to us as a form of leadership.
All right, so that was just a little bit more insight from UC Berkeley on leadership. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit more of a better understanding on what they're looking for when if you're selecting this prompt on leadership. I do have a case study here on leadership. If you want to take a quick, 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, I'll give you to go read over this on your own, and then we'll come back again and regroup and discuss a little bit more of what you guys think. Okay, moving on. So as you can see on this, I kind of want to get you guys a little bit more to participate. And so after you read this prompt on case study number 1 on leadership, we want to know, do you think the student did a good job on writing this prompt? Was it, did it add value to it, or would you think it's a missed opportunity? So if you really think this was a really good, the word count is 283. They didn't make it to the 350, but that's okay. Typically, everyone averages anywhere from 250 to the max 350. So by raising your hand, if you guys think this was a good one, it was an added value, go ahead and put the thumbs up. Again, if you think that this case was a good one, an added value, go ahead and put the thumbs up so I can see. Perfect. I see a couple. Awesome. Okay. All right. Let me go on to the next screen. Thumbs up or hands up. It's good. Either one. Raise your hand. Either one is good. Okay, perfect. So let's go on to the next screen and we'll take a look and see if it was an added value, which is a good one, or was it a missed opportunity? Ready? All right. Unfortunately, this one was a missed opportunity. So they had a great start. They tell us about their junior year, how they got involved in this group, but that wasn't enough. It kind of left us with too many questions. Like when we're reading it, we're like, well, how big were the teams? Was it regionals? Were they going finals? So you don't want to leave the admissions officer assuming things again or asking questions. So it's very important that you're specific, you give detail as much, so that way it adds context, okay? So again, this one was the missed opportunity, but there are ways that you can add value again. Let's move on to our second PIQs on creativity. So on this one, what does creativity mean to you? Do you have a creative skill that is important to you? And what have you been able to do with that skill? So tell us, describe your process. And how does your creativity influence your decisions inside and outside of the classroom? And does your creativity relate to your major or your future career? So these are just some questions that you can ask yourself, so that way you're able to write and tell us more. So if you have a passion for music or dance, tell us about it and tell us the whole process and tell us what have you gained or from it, or how it has affected you. So tell us more. Moving on to prompt 3, talents and skills. Okay, so is there a talent or a skill that you're proud of? So this is a time for you to share it. You know, what is this talent or is this skill meaningful to you? And does the talent come naturally, or have you worked hard to develop this skill or talent? Okay. I do have a case study number 2. Go ahead and read it. This one is a little bit longer, 329 words. So let's see if this one is an added value, or if it, again, or if it's a missed opportunity. So take a minute or two to just read it over, and then again, we'll recap. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So I'm sorry for interpreters if I'm going too fast. I just want to make sure that we still have enough time for questions at the end. So this one is the greatest skill or talent. Again, if you think this is a added value, go ahead and raise your hand or put the thumbs up. Or is it a missed opportunity? Perfect, I see one. Okay, everyone is saying that is an added value. So let's take a look. Again, this one is a missed opportunity. So again, they started pretty good. You know, they gave us a good leadership example. However, the student started talking a lot about someone else and was focusing on someone else, the brother, and not themselves. So, you know, again, the admissions officers, they always want to hear about you, about the student, you know, and how carrying this responsibility has affected, you know, whether it's either personally or academically. Okay. So the student discusses their determination and their desire to support and tutor their, you know, troubled older brother in math and reading. While overall we believe the student is sharing a strong leadership example, we would like to hear more about how the student is carrying this much responsibility, but how it has affected them either personally, again, or academically. So again, this is clearly a missed opportunity. Because it's not an example of a student talking about someone else. It's, you know, it's more than themselves. So again, focus on yourself. So don't forget that. The fourth one is about educational opportunities. So, you know, tell us, have you participated in any honors or academic enrichment programs, advanced AP courses, you know, just to name a few, honors courses. For example, maybe you can tell us more if you participated in a summer camp, you know, for engineering and science program. You know, it's a 6 weeks program, and, you know, you can tell how there was over, again, 400 applications submitted, and they were only going to pick 25 students. So, you know, remember, be very specific, give us detail. And, you know, this internship opened up, you know, you can talk how this internship opened up a whole new world to you, how you had the opportunity to experience with, you know, different new things that you've never heard of. So they always want to hear what you've gained. What experience have you gained in this? Question number 5 is about a challenge. I do have a case study on here. This one is 349 words. Take a minute to read it. And then again, we'll regroup to see if it's an added value or a missed opportunity. All right, so what does everyone think? Is this an added value or a missed opportunity? Go ahead and raise your hand or put the thumbs up if you guys all think it's an added value. Perfect, let's see, okay, good. Okay, let's take a look now. Yes, you guys were all correct. This one is an added value. Okay, so this is good. This is a good example, and I'll tell you why. So the student added a deal of information that was useful to us, the reader. They were very clear in discussing how they had depression issues. It started at a very young age, and then it progressed through high school, which affected their grades and their social life. But although it's not evident here, we do see this challenge really reflects the student's self in their grades. You know, particularly she did mention sophomore year. So this does add some additional context, and it really helps us, the reader, understand really what was going on with the student in their personal life, how it impacted academics. And then the student did a really good job at explaining how they got out of the situation with the help of those around them and putting their energy into sports. So this student really did a good job of answering the question and clearly describing the steps they worked on becoming an improved version of themselves. So this is a great one, okay? Good job. All right, our sixth one is academic subjects. So for academic subjects, you know, think of an academic subject that really inspires you. And maybe, you know, if there's a course that you haven't taken at your school that you wish you had taken, and then talk maybe about how you're looking forward on taking it in college. And, you know, just tell us a little bit more. I do have another case study on this one. So take a minute to go read it over, and then we'll regroup again for if it's an added value or not. Okay, I don't mean to rush everyone, but we're running out of time on today's presentation. But on this one, what do you guys think? Is it a missed opportunity or an added value? This one is an added value because as you can see, the student was able to provide us with the timeline. And they start off really good talking about being a dancer and how that brings joy to their life. And you know, how they perform for an audience with mental disabilities and how that inspired them to connect the body and mind, which then leads to their AP psychology class. So this is good, you know, because not only did they learn dance, not only improve, but you know, it just added a really positive to their life. And this experience really led them to researching and finding a college summer program, working on a project on the brain waves and sleep cycles. And so to design a device to assist people to feel more refreshed the next day. So this is, again, another added value. Sorry. 7 is about community service. So tell us, has there ever been a problem at your community that you wanted to fix? What inspired you to act? What did you learn? And how did your actions benefit others, your community, or both? Our very last one, okay? So if there's anything you want them to know about you, but didn't find a question or a place in the application to tell them, this is your time. So what have you not shared that would highlight a skill, a talent, a challenge, an opportunity, anything that will help them to get to know you better? Now, there is a spot also for the additional comments. So this one, it is a little bit more, 550 words, and it's right after the PIQs. So, you know, if you want to go more in detail, this is your chance in the additional comments. You know, also, if you want to add a little bit more about the academic history, perhaps maybe why, if there was a change in your grades, tell us why. So this is your chance to explain. You know, also a lot of students have been using, with the recent events about COVID, you know, a lot of students have used this additional comment section to talk a little bit more how COVID has impacted, you know, their life. And so this, again, would be your chance to talk a little bit more about that. Again, additional comments are not for you to continue on the PIQs, but again, it's just a little bit more to explain more in detail about maybe a reason for a dip in your grades. Final tips. Again, you should all talk about yourself. Always focus on you. Be honest. Proofread. Do not use this to no storytelling. Don't summarize new stories, and don't talk about one campus. So I'll go ahead and open up for any questions. I don't see any questions, but kind of a tip I always like to give students is, you know, start your PIQs early. So if you're a junior now, spend your summer, start drafting, start thinking about these questions. So that way it just makes it a little bit easier once you start in the fall of your senior year writing this. Again, the UC's applications open up in August, but it's in November 1st when you can start submitting them. And the deadlines are usually always November 30th, unless it changes. Okay, one of the questions is, does every UC read every PIQ that you write? The answer is yes. Any other questions?
Okay, great. As we wind down here, thank you so much, Daisy, for the informative presentation. We would also like to thank our students, families for your participation at the Roadmap to Success event tonight.